I want to say, before we start playing this, I just want to let the public know that I was manipulated into brown nosing.
No.
You can kick rocks if you don't like how I talk. I'm gonna keep on talking and walk my.
We're going to discuss today a recording January 18th, 2024, meeting between Michael Nail and Linda Calhoun. I'm going to let you talk about what the purpose of this recording is. We're going to go through the recording line by line. She does not know that you recorded this conversation.
I had a couple of prior meetings before this in her office, and to which she denied one of them in public at a council meeting.
Yeah.
So that's why I recorded this this certain conversation. This was right after the 2023 mayoral election, and she did reach out to me a couple of weeks after the election in November, asking if I would be on planning and zoning committee.
And I think we need to say, like, this is, what is it, like a one-party state, or where you can, you are able to, it's legal to record. I think it's unfortunate that you have to. It holds people accountable for their words, and it's really important that people stick to what they're saying, and they can't just deny it. So
that's the context for why you recorded this conversation. But the context of the conversation is also she was asking you to sit on planning and zoning.
So I just want to talk a little bit about public works, planning and zoning, everything, kind of what you want to do going forward and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm definitely interested in being on whatever you want me to be on. I do think that you do have somebody in mind you want to appoint. I just think that you and I could work well together. And with the amount of support I have in town still, I think it would be a good move.
I appreciate that. The town's still too divided. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, and I know this is going to go back to everybody, and that's fine. I don't care, but there's too much animosity and too much hatred towards me still that. I just am not ready for that.
I don't think there's hatred towards you. Most people aren't against you, and I'm not against you either.
Oh, I
had a vision for this, and I didn't think you were running at the time, so I did get out in front of it. And when you announced, there was at that point, there's no way I could have turned back down from where I was at.
I feel no ill towards you in any way, shape, or form, and I want you to know that.
Yeah, I feel the same way with you.
Because, we were opponents. We were not enemies, and that's how I always looked at it. And I want us to work together, and I think there's a lot you can give to this town. When I learned about the new Facebook page, the new private Facebook page, and how they're bashing me on it.
I have nothing to do with that. I want to make that clear right now.
But your wife does, and Matt Deeds does, and Tracy Green does.
So
yeah, let's talk
about Left on Red for a minute.
Yes.
So I was actually included as an admin without even my knowledge.
That was something that Tracy Green created.
Correct.
And she added us as admins. Yeah. Now, I want to be clear here. Did I post stuff?
Oh,
did I comment?
Yeah, you did.
But here's the thing, is my problem with our social media pages that we have now is that they pick and choose.
They're
and
controlled.
they are controlled. And sometimes I feel like they're controlled by our mayor. Some of the admins get text messages and say, remove this post. I don't want this up there. Yeah. So I like the idea of us having a platform.
Private platform.
A private platform.
That wasn't public, that every tourist and everybody could see.
Exactly.
Right.
Where we could talk about the things that were going on in town meetings and have honest discussions. And it was not meant for hatred. I don't like the stance of that it's hatred. People can disagree with you, and it's not hatred.
It's accountability.
Well, what changes that, though, is accountability is a two-part relationship. And when one person offers accountability and then the other person denies accountability, then it shifts the entire conversation. That's why it feels like hatred. Is because for years we've offered accountability and accountability has been refused. And so it does feel like hatred, because what it does is stir up dissent within the people who are trying to force accountability. And it's not just us. Even what we're doing right now really started from a place of trying to keep things in our own house and not airing the dirty laundry to the entire public. That's where everything started. So in the context of her saying this Facebook page with Left on Red, it did get ugly. There are some things that were said.
It did.
But people were being honest for the first time. But it felt like every time we posted something to have an honest conversation, there were moles that were going back to Linda, feeding her information about everything we were saying. And then it felt like people couldn't be honest, because if they were honest, then it was getting back to Linda. And obviously it was getting back to Linda.
I was going to say, we still have moles. We have people reach out to us this week talking about what they're doing and trying to
They know
protect
everything
us.
before you say it. All right. So that is the context of Left on Red.
And, you know, I really appreciate the fact that you don't speak up, that you don't do that. And that's why I'm saying, let's work together. Let's figure this out, because I know you're a nice guy. There's too many people that supported you, and so I know you're a nice guy. But there's some people out there that aren't nice.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. I appreciate the fact that you don't speak up. And really, that is the foundational message of Linda Calhoun. If you speak up, you are an enemy. And the reality is that's just not true. I'm sorry. That is not true, Linda Calhoun. People who speak up are leaders. And I'm not saying that Michael's not a leader because he doesn't speak up. But what you want to surround yourself with is people who have no opinion and defer to your opinion all the time. And the reality is there are some real frustrations in this town. And it's okay for people to speak up. It is okay for people to hold you accountable. There's nothing wrong with that. And the reality is, too, that, you know, Michael, you have spoken up.
I have spoken up.
You have
especially against an $80,000 porta potty trailer.
Okay. He just picks and chooses what he's going to speak up about. But I do think that she sees Michael and she will say, oh, he has a good heart. And she is absolutely right. He does have a good heart. He has a great heart. He doesn't like conflict. He doesn't like it. He does pick and choose what his battles are. He doesn't pick and choose against everything. But I do believe that she sees him as someone she can manipulate.
Well, and he internalizes a lot too.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, being the external communicators that Brianna and I are, because Jackie, she internalizes a lot too. And then we have conversations about it afterwards. But, you know.
You guys process immediately and are able to respond immediately. And just like these, we would have 1,000 things to say after that meeting, but we can't just comes in and comes out. We're going to be a peacemaker, process it, and then communicate it, I feel.
And I don't want to put anything out there too on emotion.
Yeah.
You know, so it takes me a minute to process.
And Brianna and our emotional wrecks.
Totally. And it totally backfires on us. And I say things I don't need to say because I'm just spouting off exactly how I feel. And so, yes, it's a great balance for us because you two are very similar and then we are very similar. But it balances us all out.
And I hope in 2 years that you're so involved with everything and that you just step right into council and then you step right into mayor 2 years after that.
Okay, so in 2 years, clearing the air, we wanted to work together.
Yep.
I want you to serve on a position, and then in 2 years, I want you to step into council.
Shoe in for council.
Shoe in for council.
And then in 2 years after that, mayor.
Right.
She said it.
So what happened 2 years later?
Some ineligible votes were cast, and I lost by 1 vote.
Right.
And she campaigned against me.
Right.
She did campaign against you.
Campaigned against you, and in the process,
appointed
the council member that got elected now. She appointed her to council, so she would have the advantage going into this election.
Right.
And when we say illegal votes, people are going to say it was never proven. People live in this town, know who doesn't live in this town.
Sure.
So there's no one, you can't ask yourself this question, hey, did this person vote and do they live in town?
There were ineligible votes casted in the election.
Yes.
Yeah.
regardless
without
of what
a doubt.
happens.
No doubt. And
Yes.
everybody knows it. In fact, we presented that information at a council meeting, named the names of the people, and asked the council to really consider, you know where these people live. And I've had council members tell me to my face, I know where they live. They don't live here. They live in Texas. In that process, we hired a private investigator to determine, where do these people live? They don't live here. They live in Texas. Where are their driver's licenses registered? Are they registered in New Mexico? No. Are their vehicles registered in New Mexico? No. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt that some of the family of our mayor, Linda Calhoun, do not live here, voted in that election, and we don't know how they cast their vote, but we know how they cast their vote. And it was not for Michael Nail.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So this voice recording, in 2 years, I want you to serve on council. That was not true. That was not true.
I want you to be so involved in our community that you just are a shoo-in and you go and he was involved and he was working.
Not only were we involved, we now own 3 businesses in town. We can't be more involved.
Volunteer fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Public Works Committee, and I was a short term on planning and zoning.
And with the housing, and the governor just put $500 million aside for housing, that I think we could get some of, and there were just some reasons like that I thought, you know,
and I hope you can get it, because we need it.
We need it, and I was so excited about that meeting yesterday.
All right, so let's talk about the housing. Let's talk about that funding that the governor set aside. Let's talk about the fact that our town housing has allocated housing for the mayor's businesses. And, you know, when we say the mayor's businesses, obviously, when you pull up records on who owns what businesses, because New Mexico allows you to conceal who owns those businesses, you're never going to see the mayor's name. But when you pull up articles in newspapers, you will find, and when you pull up grant applications at the state level, you will find Linda always representing the Red River Brewing Company. Mm-hmm. And the articles representing her as an owner of that business. That's why we say the mayor's an owner of the business. We have meeting minutes. We have which are legal proof, but you have indications that not only does Linda represent herself as an owner of the business, but newspaper articles that were never corrected represent her as an owner of the business.
And I think that was intentional, so that it wouldn't look like it's a conflict of interest when it still is.
Sure. Mm-hmm. So with regard to town housing, we have an entity that is owned by the mayor, or owned by the mayor's family, let's put it that way, who is, to my knowledge, the only legal entity that is allowed to lease property from the town and then sublet that property to their J1 employees. And if we have such a housing crisis, you know, when I look at it and I think about it, when we talk about the other council members, Daniel Lamb, Justin Brandenburg, Angela Howells Black, Steve Cherry, every single one of those council members owns a business. Mm-hmm. Every single one of those council members has J1 or has had J1 employees. Every single one of those council members has housed their own J1s. Mm-hmm. I don't know of a single one of them that have ever leased housing from the town. The only conflict of interest is with Linda. Mm-hmm. And I don't know any other business that has the opportunity to lease housing from the town in a housing crisis and then use it for their J1s. Mm-hmm. We've all had to buy our own housing.
Yes, exactly.
Where the distillery and tasting room, rather than purchasing housing for their employees, was able to invest and expand and grow their business with the help of a grant that the town helped them apply for. And we do have the legal minutes on that, where Max represented the brewery. He was a representative of the brewery to obtain that particular grant. So The conflicts of interest are everywhere. They're all over the place. And that's what people don't understand. That's why we have an issue. Mm-hmm. That's why we have the accountability going on is you're doing things. Yes, we have a housing crisis. Yes, you're applying for grant money, but in the middle of applying for grant money, you're throwing everybody else under the bus. Yep. Who else would, we have a waiting list, 20 people deep waiting for town housing, and they can't get town housing, but then seasonal housing where J1s are only here for a short period of time is reserved for the mayor's businesses. It's not right.
Right.
It's not right.
And these are things that they really need to consider if they're, because it sounds like we are moving forward with town housing and like building something. And if we're doing this, like it needs to be thought out and it needs to be done right. And it doesn't need to be controlled.
Yeah, it needs to be allocated to businesses throughout the town, not just to businesses.
Or just allocated to people, period.
Yeah.
In general, long-term housing for people that'll come and stay. But if she'll abuse it, if they will abuse it now with the crap properties that we have, why wouldn't they abuse it when we have brand new properties?
Yep.
That's what I think people don't understand is whatever they do now, they'll do in the future. And I think people think, oh, it'll get better. We're just going to add housing and then everything will be all right. Well, that's not the case.
Right.
If they're abusing it now, they're going to abuse it in the future. Mm-hmm. And it's just not fair to everybody else. I would love to be able to take the money that I have invested in properties for employees and invest it in expansion. I would love that. Would you love that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I know. And you do think about it though. If you didn't have to put like your employees up there, you could use the town housing, then you would be able to like rent it out or do Airbnb it. And that's more money in your pocket.
Absolutely.
Like 3 times.
It is. And I mean, we've even had these conversations. We've got a house behind the hardware store. And when we like sat down and thought about like the price difference of doing an Airbnb or letting someone live in it long-term, you just can't justify it. You can't.
No.
Yeah. You make so much more off of Airbnb, sure. and I wish that wasn't the case, but it is.
And it's too expensive to not try to. Our mortgages are too large to not. And I know that's the case for not just us, but I know that's the case for the brewery as well.
Yes.
Their expenses, their overheads just as high as ours is, but instead of investing in housing that is not revenue generating, it's a break-even proposition, because I know that to be a fact for me. It's been a break-even proposition for me to house employees, but I've had to do that so that I can keep a business running.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I have not had the privilege of housing employees elsewhere. And not only not had the privilege, but it's never been mentioned. Hey, if the rest of these business owners in town want to house your employees, we're willing to sign lease agreements.
But that's what's probably going to come out of this discussion right now. They'll be like, oh, it's been available for everyone.
Sure.
But it's kind of like the grants. I think that at one point,
anybody.
Well, I think at one point we brought up the fact that like, why are you getting all these grants for your businesses, but like no one else? And then, because we had said, why is Max doing this for these businesses? And the comment in a council meeting was, no, Max will do it for anybody.
Public record
said Max will do it for anybody. And so then we started talking to businesses and saying, we hear that Max is a resource that everyone can use. I don't know what's come of that since, but it did become like it was a thing because we spoke out against it.
Sure.
That was the only reason it started being communicated out, which is unfortunate. Like, give everyone these opportunities and like let everybody know about it.
Well, it's like the town logo. The town logo, it's not for everybody until you start to use the logo. Oh, it is for everybody. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact thing. And that's why we've established these patterns. We're establishing a pattern of behavior that it's only for me until you start to use it, and then it's for everybody else.
Yeah. And that's been had to be our pattern of communication, and why this podcast kind of has started, because we did address it individually in these individual rooms. This conversation was, 2 years ago. So address it with one person, then take 2 people and address it, and then
a
Bring
group
it
of
out.
people,
A group
address
of
it.
people
And then
addressing
finally
it.
it just comes to a public head. You know, it's not that we haven't had the private conversations. It's not that we haven't had the left on reds. It's not that we haven't gone and met with Linda face to face. And I can tell you, I've sat in her office way more times than I wanted to. But there have been conversations in private,
Lots.
trying to correct these issues. A lot of mercy, a lot of mercy before it ever became public. And now it's public for a reason. It has to be public.
You can kick rocks if you don't like how I talk. I'm gonna keep on talking and walk my walk.